and pictures. Words and pictures.
Hello. I've just been having a look through these postcards. They're all views of places I've visited. This is a view of Ventnor in the Isle of Wight. It's a town by the sea. And this video is of another place by the sea. I went to visit it last summer. This is a wonderful view of Veryan Bay in Cornwall, and you can see way out to sea from here. But if you turn and look over here, you can see the village of Portloe. And down there is where two great friends of mine live. I'm going to pay them a visit. Here's the house where my friends live. Jack, Alice.
Hello, Sophie.
Hi, you two. I've come to visit your village. So what are you going to show me?
Everything.
Well, that's good. Well, I think I want to see the shops first. Alice, how long is it going to take to get there?
Only 20 seconds.
20 seconds, is that all? Well, I'm going to test you out on that. Should we count the seconds? 1, 2, 3, 17, 18, 19, 20! Hey, it did only take 20 seconds. Hello, Jack and Alice.
Hello.
Hello. Well, I can see the post office and I can see the tea room, but where are all the other shops?
This is the only one.
Oh, of course, because villages are so small that they don't have things like supermarkets and cinemas and things like that, but they're lovely and quiet. What kind of things can you buy in the shop?
Drinks, chocolate, cool ice creams and postcards.
Postcards. Oh, I could do with a postcard to remind me of my visit. Would you two help me choose one?
All right, then.
OK, let's go.
Hello, Jack and Alice. Hello, Claire.
Hello. Right, I found a very good postcard with a view of the village and of Veryan Bay, so I can write it a bit later on and pop it in the postbox. This is a great place to stand, isn't it? Because you can see nearly everything there is to see in the village. There's the village church, the village telephone box, and there's the hotel over there. Is there anything else to see in the village?
The harbour.
And how long is it going to take to get there?
20 seconds.
Should have guessed, shouldn't I? OK, then, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 18, 19, 20!
Look, Sophie, here's some lobster pots.
Ah, and what are they for?
Catching the lobster crabs in.
Now I know.
Hello, Alan. Hello, Jack.
Hello, Martin.
Hello.
Hello.
You two know every single person in this village, don't you?
Yes.
And they all know you as well, don't they?
Alice, Jack, lunchtime.
Bye, Sophie. Bye, Sophie.
Bye, you two. Thanks for helping me out. After I'd been to the tiny village of Portloe, I went to visit somewhere else in Cornwall. It's also by the sea, but there are a lot more buildings and people. This is the town of St Ives, and I've come here to visit someone who does the most wonderful paintings and stories. It's Michael Foreman. Hello there, Michael.
Hi, Sophie.
What are you sketching here?
These are sketches for a new book.
And as well as the views that you see, do you use the different people that you know in your stories?
Yes, I like the stories to be as real as possible, so I like to base characters on real people. For instance, Captain Phil on the beach over there with the children has appeared in many of my stories, and I've recently written a book just about my son, Jack.
And here is Jack. So what's the book called, Jack?
Jack's Fantastic Voyage.
Jack's mother and father both worked in the city, so Jack spent his holidays with his grandfather, a sea captain, in his old house by the sea. Jack loved it there. The house was very old and made of wood. It looked like a beached boat. Yet it was the inside of the house that held the most wonders for Jack. His grandfather had painted pictures everywhere. When he had grown too old to sail the seas, he painted his memories. The beams of the ceiling were carved and hung with wooden birds, and the floorboards carved with fishes. All around the sides of Grandfather's big bed were scenes of wild seas and shipwrecks. On the panel above the pillows was an ocean of icebergs. At the foot of the bed was mounted a great ship's wheel. During the day, Jack often played with his friends on the beach, but it was the evenings that Jack loved best. That was when Grandfather told him the stories behind the pictures. Starting out as a young ship's boy, Jack's grandfather had lived a life of adventure. He seemed to have sailed every sea and visited every port. Jack loved his descriptions of tropical islands, the air thick with scents, spices and parrots. In his imagination, he saw great whales spouting and dolphins and flying fishes around Grandfather's ship. Most of all, Jack looked forward to stormy nights, because then Grandfather told his terrifying tales of typhoon and shipwreck. But one day, while playing with his friends, Jack heard some of them laughing about his grandfather.
Look out, Jack. Here comes your crazy granddad.
He's not crazy, I love him.
He's bonkers, paints mad pictures, makes up stories.
He doesn't make them up.
Of course he does. He's never even been to sea before. You can ask anyone.
And they all ran off as Grandfather approached. "Had a good time, Jack?" asked Grandfather, smiling. Jack hoped that Grandfather had not heard what the boys had been saying. That evening, when Grandfather told Jack another story of the sea, he made it sound so real that Jack felt sure he could not be making it up. The next day, Jack didn't go to the beach with the other boys, but spent the day on the rocks close to Grandfather's house. Grandfather knew something was troubling him, and that evening he cooked him his favourite supper of fresh brill and crinkly chips. When the dishes were washed and stowed away, Grandfather tucked Jack up in the big bed and began another tale. It was a tale to match the night, a tale of storm and danger amongst icebergs and frozen seas. The wind was buffeting the shutters and waves full of stones rattled on the roof. The house shook. The ship's boy was now at the wheel, trying to hold her into the wind. He turned to Jack. "Take the wheel, Jack!" Half asleep, Jack crawled to the ship's wheel at the foot of the bed. "It was a dark and stormy night," continued Grandfather. "It took all the boy's strength to keep the wheel steady. Hold her steady, Jack!" he shouted over the storm. Jack could feel the house shaking, swaying from side to side. Books fell from the shelves and a chair slid across the floor. The storm shutters were now off the windows. Jack could see the light from the distant lighthouse. It seemed to be bouncing in the dark. The house was afloat. Grandfather raced downstairs to the kitchen. Jack heard him shoveling coal into the big black cooking range. "We need more steam," he cried. "Keep her steady, Jack, to the left of the light." They were beyond the harbour, pitching over the white-topped waves. As they neared the lighthouse, a thick blanket of fog rolled over them, and only the mournful sound of the lighthouse foghorn told Jack where to steer. It was a comforting sound and reminded him of Grandfather snoring. Under the fog, the sea was not so rough. Jack began to feel at ease with the wheel. He got used to the shift and sway. Grandfather was now on the balcony outside the front window, peering into the mist. Sometimes, without turning round, he raised his arm and pointed left or right, and Jack changed course. Then the fog thinned and was gone. Instead of black rolling waves, there was a white sea of ice and a sky full of stars. They sailed slowly through a zigzag channel in the ice until they entered an ocean of blue and green water dotted with huge icebergs. And there they were, all the ships from Grandfather's paintings, the great clippers with their white sails, fast cutters and schooners, brown-sailed smacks and luggers, and even the grimy collier from the coal bucket. For hours they sailed among this magic fleet and around every iceberg. Seals were chased by polar bears. Whales and narwhals rose and fell in the clear water. Then ice began to close over the sea, and the ships were gone. They sailed back through the zigzag channel, and it shut behind them. The blanket of fog covered everything once more. When Jack woke up, the pale sun was just appearing over the horizon. He dressed and went onto the balcony. Everything seemed normal. The house was high and dry amongst its neighbours. Had it all been just a dream? He went to find his grandfather to tell him all about it. Jack found him at the back of the house. He could hardly believe his eyes. There was Grandfather, standing on a chair, chipping the last telltale icicle off the roof. Vulture. Vest. Van. Vegetables. Vegetarian vulture. Vegetables, vulture. Vegetables, vulture. Both these words start with the same letter. Watch how Magic Pencil writes it. Down and up and flick. 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 Perhaps you can